Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UFO Hub live stream. So, as you guys probably know, based on the title, I'm going to have Donna Lynn on today. So, we chatted a little bit before the show began, made sure everything streams all right. But please keep in mind, this is the very first time that I'm actually doing a live stream with someone coming in with over Skype and streaming it back out. So, please, as I asked you last time, bear with me if anything goes wrong, but it seems like it's going to go great. So anyway, just wanted to let you know. I want to go over a few things first before I start talking to Donna. So Donna is going to be also one of the speakers at the Ozark UFO conference. And they still have some tickets available if you are interested. Let me go over here real quick. There we go. You can simply purchase some tickets if you just go to ozarkufoconference.com, and there's a register button there, and it'll take you directly to the platform. Now, the thing that's very different about this virtual platform is that you're not just going to be able to watch, but when it's time during the Q&A, if you have a camera and audio, you'll be able to get on the screen with the speaker and ask them some questions as well. And so that's quite, it's not exactly the same, obviously, as an in-person, but it's better than just having to sit back and watch. So anyway, it's a great platform. You can also interact with each other, where if you find a friend on one of the chat lists and you know that is your friend, you can reach out to them and ask to do a private session, and then you guys can chat over video and audio as well. So it's very versatile in that way. So anyway, enough of that. There's still less than a month for the conference, so please go ahead and sign up. Donna Lynn is going to be one of the speakers. There's going to be George Norrie, Whitley Strieber, Mary Rodwell, and there's a great lineup that I would recommend you guys going to check out. Okay, let me switch this over here. So let's bring in Donna, and I'm gonna. There you go. Hi, Donna. How are you doing? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I figured we'll get going and basically just talk a little bit about how you. I don't want to say how you got into this, because a lot of times it's seemingly out of our control. But if you could simply start out with just a little intro about yourself and what's been going on in your life.
Staring at me.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. One more second. I did the very thing I said early in the stream that I was not going to do. You were muted to everybody.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's start this out again. Basically, if you can just start off from the beginning, everyone heard what I asked you, so that you should be fine now.
Okay. Pretty much, you're right. It wasn't really a choice on my behalf. My whole life, as early as I can remember, I would be sound asleep and then just suddenly startled awake with a face very, very close to mine, just staring at me with these big, black, shiny eyes, face to face. And I would be paralyzed. And it would be, I could tell it was a conscious being, because it would be like communicating with me or like reading my mind or trying to talk to me. But I mean, I was 6 years old when this happened, and it has you held in its gaze. And then when suddenly it just disappears, like into the night, and you're just laying there in the bed, and your mind has been so drained or whatever you might say. And you're so much in shock that all you can think of to do is scream. You can't even find words or anything. And so I would wake up screaming quite often as a child. And when I was able to, I'd jump out of bed and run down the hall into mom and dad's room. And I felt like somebody was right behind me. And, my mom would comfort me and say they're just bad dreams. And she ended up taking me to a couple different doctors because she got a little concerned. And they just said they're night terrors. A lot of children have them. It's common. She'll outgrow it. But I never did. I never did outgrow it. And as I became a little older, like teenager in my 20s, I realized that this isn't common. I just, when something happens to you as a kid, you just think it happens to everybody. But then I realized this isn't happening to just anybody. And so then I began to figure out why me and why. And over a course of quite a bit of time, years, I came to understand that they were communicating with me. They'd give me messages. They'd tell me things like, don't go to a certain shopping center on a certain day that I planned to do or something. And then maybe there was a car accident on the way there. And I realized they were kind of, I don't know, almost like guardians looking out for me, kind of guiding my way. And as time went on, I came to just accept that they were a part of my life. And I don't really know why. I still don't. But they're good. They're benevolent. They're helpful. They've helped me through a lot of things in my life. The biggest thing they've done is healing. They've helped me with healing with migraine headaches. They've helped me healing after surgery. They've come into my room and used glowing wands or just their weird looking hands and relieve pain and made me feel better and heal faster. So I know they're good and they're benevolent and they're helpful. And so I wrote the book. Actually, that was part of the reason I wrote the book, was because these things were going on in my head, but I had to have a normal life as a wife and a mother and an employee and a student, and it was complicated to be in my head. So I would write things down in journals and keep them by my bed and write things down as soon as I woke up. And then I could put them away and just focus on being a normal person with a normal life. And after many, many years, I decided to put all the journals together, and they actually came together to make a story. And that's when I submitted them to Ozark Mountain for publishing, and they published it. I never thought anybody would be interested in what I had experienced, but turns out people are.
Well, Donna, I know you said that they sometimes help you with healing and whatnot, but was there more of a reason why they got in touch with you than just that?
Yeah, because the healing was more just for me personally, but they, I think they are trying through me to talk to other people too, because I've always been very sensitive. And so I can sometimes maybe see things other people can't see or hear things other people can't hear. And so I'm kind of a translator, they've told me. I'm able to, because I'm able to see into their realm and experience what they're telling me or showing me, and then I can kind of run it through my experience and spread that message to others who may not be able to see them or hear them. And it's mostly just love. We need to love one another. We need to take care of each other. We need to take care of the world, and be accepting of one another, and be accepting of them. They would really like to come and be among us. I really believe that, but they can't yet because humans are so much into fear. And I thought we were getting better, but after this last year with COVID and everything, I see that we're still very, very frightened creatures. And could look how scared everybody got with COVID. Can you imagine if aliens came, And they have come to visit with humans in the past. I believe, the pyramids, Atlantis, different things like that, they have helped with that. But they always ended up being worshipped as gods or, things they didn't want. They don't want to be seen as superior to us or gods or anything. They're our brothers and sisters. They just are from a different realm or a different dimension or a different way of living. But for right now, they can't approach us en masse, so they're approaching individuals like me. And also by me coming out and talking, it empowers other people. There probably are a lot of people out there that are also experiencing this, and they think they're crazy, or they're afraid to talk about it or tell anybody. And then they hear my story and they think, wow, that might be real. That's really happening. And then that encourages them to speak up and share with other people, and so on until maybe, everybody can be more open-minded about it and not be so afraid all the time.
So I know, so for some of you that are watching that might not know this, you and I have two previous interviews that we did, and you do a great job of covering what it is that's been happening in your life. I was wondering if there was something recent or anything like that that you might have that you want to share, or something else that's more pertinent that you would like to talk about right now.
What I'm going to talk about at the conference next month. I was invited to speak last year, and then, I started writing it up, and then, of course, it got canceled because of COVID. So I pulled out my notes when I got invited again this year, and I was able to use a lot of what I had started to say. And ironically, I had been talking about fear and how humanity needs to get past the fear, which is, the main theme of what they've always been telling me, and what the main theme of my book, From Fear to Love. We need to transmute that fear into love. And now, looking back, I see that this past year, and also they had kind of pulled away. I hadn't really seen them or heard from them for like a whole year. And then when they knew I was going to be speaking at the conference, they've started coming back a little bit, but they're still kind of distant. And it's because of the fear. And my main alien being who I'm in contact with, his name is Croat, and he's a 7 foot tall praying mantis being. And he showed me, he takes me like whoosh out the top of my head, and then we kind of float away. And he showed me from out in space looking at Earth. And you know how the Earth is usually seen by NASA or whatever, is this beautiful blue-green jewel hanging in the stars. And Croat showed me that right now, the way it looks to them, and to how they see things, it looks like the Earth is kind of enveloped in this dark cloud or fog or mass, like this mottled grayish darkness. And he said that's fear. That's the anxiety, the fear, the depression, the grief. Our world has been plunged into a dark, literally a dark place over the last year. And they need us. They need each one of us to be a light, to get past that fear, instead of like wallowing in the grief and the pity and everything that we're going through right now. Be a light and focus on what's positive and what's good. It's brought a lot of families closer. It's shown a lot of us who our real friends are this past year, what's really important in life, and focus on good things, focus on gratitude, focus on love. And the more you do that, the brighter you glow, and your own personal aura and glow. And that is what they see. They don't see us the way we see us when we look in the mirror. They see our light and our aura and our glowing. And they're looking for that, because right now we're all kind of buried in this darkness. So yeah, that's been the latest message. And I think that's the reason they've come to see me these past 50, almost 60 years. They knew this time was coming. They knew Earth was coming to some kind of a turning point, where we were going to have to make a decision, whether we give into fear or whether we give into love. And this is it. This is, the time that we've all been waiting for. You could call it the Age of Aquarius, or, the Great Awakening, or, we thought it was going to happen maybe at Y2K, or we thought it was going to happen on December 21st, 2012. But this right now is the time that we need to really let our light shine, and really, it's almost a spiritual battle between good and evil right now. And it's the whole world. It's not just our country. It's the whole world is caught up in this. And as individuals, we can make a difference. You might think, oh, what's one person going to do to make a difference? But you can. They've showed me that just one person with a bright enough light will help pierce that darkness that's enshrouding the earth right now. And so they want all of us to do that and try to focus. We can all get down and out sometimes about the situation, but don't stay there. Don't dwell in that. Try to focus on what's good and what's right and what's positive in life right now.
So, would it basically be just that we would just have to have a different outlook? Because as you just mentioned, it has been more than just being the bright light in a lot of times, because people kind of get down to the nuances and get into the arguments about whatever it is, and is it trying to be a neutral person when it comes to an argument, of not necessarily be the one that takes a side? They'll kind of show the way, if that's what you mean, or is it just simply be smiling when everyone else is frowning?
Ask them, like, I never was into politics when I was younger. When you're raising a family and working and things, I think a lot of young people just don't have the time. But now that I'm older, like a lot of older people, more into politics and things. And I had tried talking to them about that because, that's been crazy too. And they're kind of, they're so strange about how they answer things. They're alien, they're not like us. And Croat replied, we do not involve ourselves in your petty squabbles. And it's like, it doesn't seem like a petty squabble to us when it's the person that has their hand on the nuclear button, but they see such the big picture. They see the entire earth. So to them, anything, political things, even our smaller wars, are what they call petty squabbles because they see the big picture of how it affects the entire earth. And so, yeah, it's not so much winning an argument or anything. It's just more maintaining that positive mental outlook, you know.
So, regarding more on this change, do they foresee it to be for us to be out of this after a while? And well, how would the world even be drastically different, or would it just be kind of considered a little blip in our history? If you have any information on that.
The images of like running through a field or a meadow with flowers and children and puppies, and which to me is life is good. And I do believe that once we get past this awful negativity, that there's going to be maybe people are going to find cures for diseases. And I don't know, it feels like we're going to have help, because I don't think we can do it on our own. But they are helping. They're trying to help without actually manifesting in front of us. But they can give ideas, like to researchers and scientists. They can implant suggestions and ideas through dreams, through intuitions, through gut feelings. And if we can open ourselves up to receive that, that's the other reason they want people to open themselves up more, to receive maybe messages or ideas from them. And that's another reason it's important to stay in the positive, because the ones I interact with are very positive and benevolent and good, but there are negative entities too. And if a person is dwelling in negativity and bad thoughts, and then they're more likely to get input from a negative entity. But if you stay focused on positive things and good things and a better future, then you'll get input from the benevolent beings. And I really think it's a major turning point. Like, we thought it started back in the 1960s, the age of Aquarius. We thought we were going to change the world back then. And then the Y2K, we thought the world was going to change, and the 2012 thing. So I think we've been on like a precipice of change as humanity and as the planet for a long time, and it's been slow in coming. And I've actually asked Crota, is it going to even happen in my lifetime? Because I've been waiting a long time. And I hope it will. I think it will. And I think it's going to be a big shift in consciousness for the better. And, like I said, along with that, things that will heal people, things that will heal, maybe things that will clean up the pollution and just in general make the world a better place for everyone.
So, Donna, do you think they obviously kind of anticipated or foresaw that you would be out there and speaking and whatnot, so that they just kind of whatever they convey to you in the sense that okay, you will be seen publicly instead of just being this one person that nobody will ever hear from or know about and has all this great understanding and knowledge, but it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, actually, Croach showed me a long time ago, long before I thought of even writing a book, that I was standing on a stage speaking to people, which I thought was ludicrous because I never even did an oral report in school. I would take a D in English rather than give an oral book report. And so he showed me standing on a stage speaking to a group and about him, and I could see that there were a lot of naysayers in the audience, that they didn't believe me. And all of a sudden I heard a bunch of people gasping, and I turned and looked, and Croat was standing. He had actually manifested physically on the stage just behind me. And he's a 7 foot tall being, that insectoid being. And people were scared, and people were getting up to run, and he communicates with me telepathically, and he said, give me a hug. And even I am a little creeped out because he's a big bug, but I did. In this dream, I went over to hug him, and I was hesitating, and he said, the better to hug you with, my dear. And he reached out with his creepy insect legs and hugged me. And that right there showed me how much they know each of us individually, because when I was a little girl, Little Red Riding Hood was my favorite story, and my mom would read it to me doing the wolf imitation. My grandma, what big ears you have, the better to hear you with, my dear. And my mom would use the different voices. And he knew that, Croat knew that from my childhood. And so he said, the better to hug you with, my dear. And he hugged me. And by hugging me on stage in front of people, it proved to people that he's real and he's benevolent, and he wasn't going to hurt me, and therefore was not going to hurt them. And I saw that when I was in my 20s, maybe, and I thought it was really just a dream. And then after my book was published and I was invited to speak the first time, I thought, oh, I wonder if he's really going to show up on this stage. And so now I don't know. I don't know if that was just a metaphor, that my talking is going to make people accept it, or if maybe someday he really does hope to manifest on a stage someday. I hope to see that in my lifetime.
I always, every time I had a chance to talk about these kind of things, I was always discuss it in ways of, I know it's such a new agey thing to say, and I don't mean this to sound insulting to anyone out there watching, but it's about this difference in energy, and it's almost like the energy that we are right now is what's kind of being that buffer to the official contact. And the sooner we kind of resolve it and get to this equilibrium, so to say, that it will make it a lot more easier, for actual physical interactions, because that's what everybody wants. Everybody always says like, where they're at, just have them land, do all these other things. And I was, always, I'm sure you do as well, about discussing things like it's not that easy. I mean, it's pretty scary and can drive you insane sometimes.
Well, that's what I've said. Why don't you guys just manifest on my living room, and I'll call a news crew? That'll put it all to rest right then and there. Everybody will believe it. It's real. It's happening. But they've said you humanity is not yet ready, or people are not ready for that. And so it's a lot of it is in just getting the mass consciousness raised up to the point. And I think it does have something to do, like you said, with, I don't know, vibration, frequency. As you know, when you're feeling good and you're happy, you feel lighter and happier. And when you feel weighed down with depression and fear and sadness, and it's easier for them to manifest physically if we are in a higher vibration or higher frequency or whatever. So that's another reason for them wanting us to do that.
So, Donna, was there something in particular that you wanted to cover regarding contact to anyone that has either had contact or wants to eventually work towards, contact themselves? Is there something or piece of advice you could possibly give?
Yes, that's been the most amazing thing for me is that after my book, when people got in touch with me, 9 times out of 10, the email would start out, please don't think I'm crazy, but, and it's not so much, people didn't want to ask me questions so much as they really had a need to tell their story. People that have held this inside for 50 years, 40 years, something that happened to them maybe as a child that they knew it wasn't just a dream or they thought they were crazy, but then when they heard me talk about it, it like clicked for them. It's like, wow, that was real. That really was an alien that I saw or was in touch with. But I told them to go away, and now they're going to be mad at me. And so I did want to say that, if you feel you've had contact in the past, but you were too scared or you told them to go away, leave you alone, but now you're regretting it and you wish that they would come back, they're not like humans. They don't hold, um, they won't retaliate. They don't hold anger. They're not going to be mad at you that you sent them away. They totally understand how terrifying they are to us. And they would love nothing more than for you to invite them back. And then just be aware they they try to let us know because they know that they terrify us when they show up in the bedroom, and they've been working with me over the years to be less frightening. I now know if they're going to come. I'll either hear a buzzing in my right ear before I go to bed, or I'll just get a sense that they're coming, or I'll actually sometimes hear, I mean, my mom passed away years ago, but I'll hear like my own mother's voice like from a long distance, like Donna, and that's like they're calling me and they're trying to make it sound less threatening and less scary by using my mother's voice, and that they usually come to me that night. And so you have to be aware of little nuances like that or synchronicities. If you see 11:11 on the clock, different things, and it's different for everybody. They try to modify the approach for you, for what you want to see. Like my sister has never seen them in the bedroom like I do, but she sees what she calls cloud ships, where she gets this feeling, this really strong feeling to go out and look up. And she'll go out and look up at a certain part of the sky, and there'll be like one cloud in the sky, and it will look like a ship. It will just totally look like a ship. And I know people say, oh, that's a lenticular cloud. But why would she get that feeling to go out and look up and look in that spot? And then also at the same time, she'll feel from that cloud or from that ship the presence of beings or personalities or love or something from them. So they do approach different people differently, and if you ask, I really think that they will come if you ask sincerely. And if you're scared, that's okay, because they kind of expect that. They know that they're pretty scary because they're different. It's not like anything else we experience, but they do want to reach a lot of people. I think as many as they can, because that will raise
That
us. What do
right.
they say? A rising tide lifts all boats. They want to raise all of us up.
I a lot of people think that this cup, is just, there for more promotion and whatnot, but there's an actual story behind this. I'm sorry, Donna, I know you can't see it. It's basically a cup with an alien head there. And the reason why I have it is during my more heavy days of contact, I was having sometimes when things got too difficult and I just couldn't deal with it myself, I would reach out to a friend of mine, and I also did an interview with her. Her name is Catherine Hughes, and she's basically does animal communication and basically is psychic in that way. But she does basically readings about humans, animals. It doesn't matter. I mean, a spirit is spirit. And so I would basically contact her to ask about certain questions because then I'm more removed from it, and she can tell me more about what's going on. Well, talking about different things appearing in the sky, I am downtown St. Louis, early morning, going to work. That night before, she had that reading for me, and I was just listening listening to it on this 50-minute long car ride to work. And I was maybe a couple miles away from work, and I remember listening to a recording, and I said something like, "Well, will there be more contacts?" And she just said to me on the recording, "All in divine time." And as she was saying that, everything just slowed down, kind of like a cassette tape when it's just And I look up, and this is why I was so amazed about this. Downtown St. Louis at any given point has at least 100,000 people on the streets, in the cars, especially on this main road. And I'm looking up ahead and basically see this cloud turn itself into one of these heads, of this gray with these big eyes. And I'm feeling myself trying to reach for my cell phone, and I'm slowing down. I can't, like, no matter how fast I'm trying to grab the camera, my phone to take a picture, it just basically cloud turned into one of these heads and then just kind of dissipated again into every other cloud. And then when that went away, everything was back to normal. I was like, darn it, I don't. The whole point, I guess, wasn't, for me to take a picture, but it was to just confirm of what she just had said, all in his divine time, and then kind of confirmation to that. She said it. Here we are. Just trust it and let it go. That kind of thing. So,
Exactly.
right.
Confirmation.
So anyway, so what I figured, we can still keep going, but I figured probably people have some questions,
Sure.
and we'll switch over to the Q&A. I just would ask anyone would like to ask a question, please indicate the question beginning with 3 asterisks, so that way I know that's a question and it's apart from the regular chat. So in case you don't know, that's, I believe, a shift 8 is the asterisk. So just 3 of those, and then please write out your question. That way it'll pop out at me a lot easier, so I can ask Donna. All right, let me see here what we got. Yeah, because a lot of it is just chat, and it's difficult to discern what's a question, what's not, and I would have to go through it more meticulously. But yeah, so things like that happen, and it's so
Yes.
weird. I mean, you can tell people, if anything, it's just there to be a story for someone else to know, hey,
Mhm.
it's okay,
You're not
it's
alone.
this
Yeah.
crazy stuff is not just happening to you. It's almost like creating a group, of friends and people that you can, talk to at least.
Feel safe in talking about this stuff too. Yeah, because
Right,
you
right.
can't just tell your next door neighbor, "Hey, I saw an alien last night." They'll be calling 911 on you. So yeah, you have to kind of be selective who you talk to about it.
Right. Well, when I was in St. Louis, they have pretty large groups of people that find these different groups of meetup, and then we'll all get together and basically just share stories, share experiences, talk, just to, and it's a lot of people. That's, just
Oh,
certain
good.
meetings, you'll get like 100 plus people there, and all combined, it's even more. So, if you just use that other, quote unquote logic, if we're all crazy, that's a whole lot of crazies that have gotten together.
And I like when you mentioned you tried so hard to get your phone to take a picture of that cloud, but no,
Yeah,
that's the big thing that the naysayers say is, well, how come, everybody has a cell phone? How come nobody gets pictures? It's just set up that way that you can't, and I'm not sure why. Not yet. Anyway, I think the day will come when we'll be able to maybe take pictures, but right now it's just this one-on-one that they're reaching me this way, they're reaching you that way. They're just kind of reaching every individual in their own way right now.
right. So this one, I believe it's a question, even though it doesn't have the asterisk. I think this was meant for you. This is from Hazel Blair. It says, "Do you think they can sense if someone is a believer or not?"
Oh yes, I'm sure they can. Yeah. Croat has actually shown me because I've moved many times in my life, and supposedly contactees do. Then it's kind of a subconscious, maybe a way to get away from them. But I remember asking him, "How do you find me? There's 7 billion people on this planet. You find me every time." And he took me and showed me like a New York City street, a busy street with all the people, rushing around, and he showed me how each individual has their own aura with their own colors and patterns and sizes and shapes. But not only that, but we each have like cartoon speech bubbles around our heads. Everybody does. And people with angry thoughts, they're like sharp and red, and people with depressed thoughts, they're like dark and they kind of drag down. And people, he showed me someone who was praying, and it was just a brilliant, bright, glowing thought pattern. And so yes, they can tell your mental state, your thought patterns. We can't really keep any secrets from them.
The other question is from Mark Reeves. As I had an experience of tall grace recently, and I prayed for protection from them to go away, and they did. Why would they appear to me, and why pray for light? Why pray for light? Make them go away.
That's interesting. I'm a Christian, and I don't have a conflict with seeing aliens and being Christian, but I have read that, and there are negative entities, and I have read that if you are approached and you're not certain, you ask them in the name of Jesus. If you don't come in the name of Jesus, I demand that you leave, or else you pray and ask for protection. And if they're benevolent and they don't mean you or anyone else any harm, they'll stay, because I've done that many times. And there was only one time where I felt them immediately, like being sucked out of my room, and never came back. So I think it's a good way to make sure you're protected, and that you only bring in the good ones that don't mean you or anyone else any harm.
Sorry, I misread Mark's message. He just wrote some other words. I didn't read them right. So, Mark, I'm really sorry. It's just me being silly. um, so, the other question is, do the ETs ever give a reason for devices, implants, health monitoring? I don't believe it's tracking really.
That's a really good question, because I don't believe it's tracking either. Like I just told Hazel, Croach showed me how they find us. They don't need to put a tracking device in us. They can identify us by our thought patterns and our colors and things. So, but I do believe in implants. I've read about them. I've seen pictures, and I do believe it's a health. Like I've had one of my other alien contactees tell me, my team, apparently it's a team that approaches me, my team are interested in DNA. They're geneticists, and that's their reason for coming. They are interested in the DNA of planet Earth, in me, and in certain animals and certain plants and whatever is in the planet. And so it could be that they do tracking to follow maybe health, or the way a person is eating and how it affects them, or maybe they live in an area that's polluted and they're tracking how that affects their physical body. I think a lot of them are scientists, the ones that do come to Earth and visit us. I think they're scientists, and they're just curious and exploring.
That the previous question was by ED. I don't believe I mentioned a name. I just wanted to give credit where credit is due. The next one is from Red Pill Doc. Says, did you notice an increase in connection with them around last April? I noticed on April 5th, 2020 or so.
Oh, no, I didn't. In fact, after the lockdown, which was just about a year ago, they kind of withdrew, and I for like a whole year, until I started preparing for this conference. And I just thought it was maybe because of the increased negativity worldwide with the COVID fears and things. But maybe it was me personally. I wasn't afraid. I was just kind of discouraged at the direction the world was going in, because I keep seeing the world as a better place, that we're going to wake up and make things better. And it was like, what happened? How come we're going the wrong way? So maybe they withdrew from me last year. So no, I didn't notice any increase last April, but it's different for everybody. Their approach is different for everybody.
This one is from Roland Ramos. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. The question is, can you describe more precisely what these creatures look like?
Um, like I said, the main one, he looks almost exactly like a praying mantis. He's got the 6 legs, only he's 7 feet tall, and he's the grayish green color, only his eyes are black, big, shiny black eyes. And he stands on his hind legs and sometimes wears a robe, a hooded robe, sometimes one of those ones with the high collars, sometimes nothing. And he's always accompanied with 3 of what would be called the classic grays. They're like 3 feet tall. I've touched them and they feel to me like what a dolphin would feel like. They're like grayish, greenish, thick, kind of like a wet watermelon. And they all have the real big, shiny eyes. And they have 3 fingers on each hand and 3 toes on each foot. And I've seen quite a few other ones. I've been taken on different ships, and sometimes I see what I call the brown scurries. They're like these little brown fluffy beings that are about the size of a cat or a raccoon, and they move really, really fast, like almost too fast for my eyes to catch. And I'm told they clean things, they clean up messes, they move around and clean things up. And from what I can tell, they don't have a head and a body. They just kind of are a body. They just kind of almost like a big mop thing, and they're brown and they just scurry around. And there's another one that I call Atekana, that she's about, well, I think about 5 feet tall. I mostly have seen her sitting at my bedside. She comes to comfort me or to talk to me and answer questions. And she's pure white, but transparent. You can see right through her. But she, again, has those big, black, shiny eyes. And she has a very pretty mouth, like a very female, almost like she's wearing red lipstick mouth. And for many, many years before I came to believe that I was actually seeing alien beings, I thought she was the ghost of one of my grandmothers, because both my grandmothers had passed before I was born. And she has that grandmotherly, loving, gentle, peaceful attitude around her. So I just assumed she was one of my grandmothers until she introduced herself as Atekana, and that she's a geneticist who works with my team. So, but the Greys and Croat are the ones I mostly interact with.
So, for those of you that are just joining us, please keep in mind if you're asking a question, if you could please put 3 little stars before your question, so that way I know to ask Donna, because it'll be just a lot easier for me as I'm looking through here. So yes, I'm sorry, Donna. I just wanted to put that out there because there's people joining as we're speaking, so I want to make sure that everybody knows and is aware. So yeah, just keep in mind 3 little stars and then your question. I would greatly appreciate it. So the next question we have here is Mark again. It says the tall grays I experienced had a short, sparse, and very thick facial hair, and were probably 8 foot tall. There were 3 or 4 of them, and the one tallest, uh, tallest one who, let me see here, guys, scoot this down. The one tallest one who leaned in over me terrified me. It says the leader was the only one I remember having facial hairs. Mark, if you have a question, thank you for sharing that. But I just wanted to be able to ask Donna some questions that she might be able to get to. But Donna, is there did they ever talk to you about official contact, and if there's a designated race that is assigned for that to happen, or not really?
I think they see us as individuals more than anything. They, oh, you mean the race of aliens that are designated to contact us.
Right. If there is an official one, or is it just going to be a whole bunch of races just showing up out of
Yeah,
nowhere?
I think they're kind of just as varied and unique as we are. I and I know a lot of people talk about the Zetas or the Arcturians or the Pleiadians, and they've never told me a planet they're from or named themselves in that way. They're more individual, and or they tell me that is not for you to know. In fact, they've kind of implied that they are much closer than that. There might be more interdimensional, like that's why they're so concerned about the Earth, because they actually might share the Earth with us, and they're just on a different dimensional level than we are. But no, they've, as far as I can tell, they see us as individuals, and they are kind of each an individual doing their own journey too.
So the next question is from Hazel Blair. Could an implant be a device to help with a one-to-one contact, so we don't get sick, radiation, etc.?
But that makes a lot of sense. That really could be. Um, could help us, because I know they say they have to bring down their vibration and we have to raise ours up, and that's how we are able to meet. So it could help us to either raise our vibration up or protect us from any damage that they could do by radiation, or maybe they carry some crazy bacteria or something that we need protection from. So that's a good possibility.
The next question is from Vincent Kentfield. Does your companion animal interact with these beings when they show up?
In fact, that's part of what I want to talk about too in my talk, is that I've always had dogs. Even as a little girl, I always had to have a dog on my bed with me. And I think, again, that was a subconscious protection. They'll protect me from the monsters. And in fact, it's been exactly the opposite. The dogs never bark. And that confused me for a lot of years too. I lived at one point with 4 dogs and a cat. And that was when I had the most contact. And it was like, what the heck? They're supposed to be my guard dogs. Why are they letting them come and take me? And I think that's what adds to the thought that they might be the beings might be dimensional. We know that cats and dogs can see things that we can't, and it's possible that they see these beings. They might be right here, right now. It's just that we can't see them with these eyes or hear them with these ears, but maybe our dogs and cats can. And so when these beings come into our bedroom at night, the dogs don't bark because it's no big deal. They see them coming and going. And I've actually seen on a ship, I was laying on a table and a gray was came up to the table and had my cat in his arms. The cat was purring, and I thought, what a traitor. So yes, I do believe the cats and dogs interact with them. They see them, they're aware of them, um, but they don't bark at them. Or so that's another reason I think they're benevolent, or I know they're benevolent, because dogs are a good judge of character, and they'll bark at someone who's a danger to us. So if the dogs don't bark at them, then they're probably okay.
So the next question is from Red Pill Doc. Do you ever feel like that they are more interested in our creative abilities than perhaps more so than themselves?
All that creative. I know some people have compared them to being robotic. The Greys, especially, they don't seem very lively. And I know that their beings, and Crode, I know, is very, very intelligent and has a very witty and sarcastic sense of humor. So I know that they've got a lot in that way. But I think they're fascinated with humans because we're so passionate and we're so emotional and we are creative and just wild. We're still got a little bit of wild animal in us. And I think they're just really fascinated with humanity because we do have things they don't.
The next question is, I want to make sure I don't skip it over. Okay. The golden Leah, Lea. How do they feel about this virus on the Earth?
Don't like it. I know they don't like what it's done to us. Um, like I said, as they showed me, the whole entire earth enveloped in this darkness because of our reactions, because of our government's reactions. Um, I have never really been afraid of COVID. I mean, I know it's real and I know people really die and people have lasting effects, but I know they don't like it. And for all I know, they have a way of healing, of curing it. But we have to be open to them and to that. But they sure don't like the way we responded to it and the way it's affected our whole planet.
I'm having the hardest time with some of these names because the usernames are not just straight names. This one is from, I'm just going to spell it out, MOSWTD. Can they download information into you when you are sleeping? What are the ones that are the size of 6-year-old and wear hoods? Can't see their faces and they move incredibly fast. Thank you.
Yes, they can and they do download information. And when you're asleep is the best time because when we're awake, our conscious mind is always full of chatter and thoughts and worries. And when we go to sleep, that conscious ego mind goes to sleep so they can reach our subconscious better. And that's when they can do downloads. And a lot of times you don't know they've done that for years. I think deja vu might be a form of having a download suddenly come up. You'll look at something and boom, it just hits you, you know, and you'll know something, and then you'll remember that you were told or shown something, or you'll just know it, and it's been activated that way. So they do definitely give downloads. They don't experience time the same way we do because we measure time, based on how we rotate around the sun and all that. But they experience time differently. So they often know what's coming in the future. So they can kind of prepare us ahead of time, give you a download now for something that's maybe going to happen in 5 years or something. But and the hooded ones, I have seen them. I thought at first that they were like grays because they're about the same size, about the size of a 6-year-old, but they're not because the grays have the big bug eyes and the big heads. But these, I think, have smaller heads because they're hid under the hood. So I don't know. I have seen them, but they've kind of stayed in the background. They haven't really interacted directly with me, but I know they do exist.
Mark Reeves had more of a statement. Mark, I apologize. If you can please formulate that in a question, I would appreciate it. I know you used the proper markings, but if you could just um, ask a direct question, please. The next question is Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. So Greys are the ones abducting dogs from a secure backyard and mysteriously appearing outside the front door. If so, why do they do this?
Hey, yeah, the grays are probably the most common ones that I see. And I've almost come to believe that the dogs work with them. This may be way, way out there. I believe in reincarnation and that you choose your circumstances of birth. And they've implied to me that sometimes one of them wants to incarnate on Earth for whatever reason to help raise the vibration or just to experience life on Earth as a physical being. And they have rules, like they're not allowed to tell us, if they want to be incarnated on Earth, they either have to come in as a human and have their memory wiped, or they can come in as a being like a dog with their memories fully intact, but they can't tell us, your dog can't talk to you. So I believe that some dogs might actually be incarnate alien beings here for the experience or to be in close proximity. I mean, how better to observe humans than to be a dog in the family, right? So maybe that's their friends coming to visit them when the aliens come to see. I mean, I know that's a little far-fetched, but that's actually one of the things that they've implied to me. Not all dogs are aliens, of course, but that's one of the ways if an alien being wants to interact with a particular human family or observe Earth close up as a incarnated being, if they come in as a dog, they can do that with their full memory intact.
So just real quick again for some of those joining us, I put it also in the comment section. If you could please start out your question with three dots. Also, I noticed I appreciate the statements, and but if you could please not use the three dots if you're just kind of making a statement or a story. If it could be in a form of a question, I'd appreciate it. It's a lot easier that way to just ask Donna and then have her, give you an answer. That way we can get through as many questions as possible. So please, if you can keep it short, I'd appreciate it, or more so to the point, because we're not really constrained by time, but it'll just make things go a lot smoother. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I lost my track here to see who was the next person. Okay. Roland La Revjomos. I'm sorry. I get my name butchered all the time, and I apologize for doing that to your name. The question is, you mentioned their spaceships. What is it like? Do you get the impression that the inside is bigger than the outside?
Very much, yes. For many years, when I was still in too much fear, all I would see would be the classic round white room with the table where they did medical procedures. But then as I became more accepting and learned to have it as more of a relationship and a communication, they started to actually show me around the ship a little bit. And they were kind of proud of, the grays we think of as being robotic, but I remember three of them were accompanying me down a hallway, and they were like really proud to show me their ship. And it has hardly any gravity. I was floating. They were like, they hold me under my arms, and I usually wake up with big bruises on my arms when they do that. And they float. They sometimes float, and they have me float. And they were showing me, different things. They showed me a room, a huge room. It looked like a huge warehouse with jars of pears stacked on top of each other. And it had this humming, throbbing sound. And after I woke up, I realized those weren't jars of pears. Those were like fetuses. And the humming sound, throbbing sound was like the whooshing of the umbilical cords, the blood and the nutrition going through the umbilical cords. So they showed me a lot of things like that. And yeah, there was one, some of their ships are filled with fluid. I guess it's like a liquid oxygen, because I've been forced to breathe what I thought was underwater when I was young, and it terrified me as they held my head under this liquid until I breathed in, thinking I was drowning, but I was able to breathe just fine. And now I understand there is such a thing as liquid oxygen. So some of the ships are filled with that, and that would explain the kind of floating movement. And they use plants, like seaweed type plants, to keep the oxygenated, to keep the environment oxygenated. And so it's almost like an aquarium on the inside, some of them. And then there's, all these different species of beings all doing their different jobs and floating around. And I remember one time they had showed me that, and then they brought me home. And obviously the ship was gigantic and massive, and it landed in my living room. And all of a sudden I was outside of the ship with a gray next to me, and it looked like an aquarium, like maybe 6 feet tall and 6 feet in diameter. It looked round, and it just looked like an aquarium in my living room. And it was like, how can that even be real? Because I was just in it, and it was massive. So, yeah, they definitely seem a lot bigger on the inside than they look on the outside, and they can shapeshift too, and change their size and shape inside and outside.
The next question is from Hazel Blair. When you're on those ships, would the time be the same?
Too, because sometimes it can seem like it's kind of like a dream where it seems like it's going on for days almost. And then I'll wake up and it'll be 2 a.m. and I went to bed at 11. So I know I couldn't have been gone that long. And they've often told me they experience time differently than we do. So it's definitely different. When I'm with them, it can seem like days when it's just be minutes.
So some of these questions I'm kind of trying to discern because I get it. We're already talking about strange things, but the questions, the way they're asked, is borderline sarcastic to me. But maybe I'm wrong. So I'm just gonna skip over those. I apologize if this is a genuine question you want to ask to those typing in, but forgive me if my discernment is not exactly the best. So certain questions I'm just gonna screen through and possibly skip over. Um, the one of the questions again from this person, I can't tell, MOSWTD. Have you heard of the theory that what some aliens are lacking is an eternal soul and see humans as vessels?
Theory. I don't know that I agree with it because any that I have interacted with, they are very clearly a living being with a sense of humor and a sense of intelligence and a sense of personality, which to me means a soul. So, but I mean, anything is possible. It's possible that there are some that don't. It's just like some people believe that aliens are demons, you know. I really do not believe the ones that I interact with are demonic by any means. They are positive and loving and healing and benevolent and have good intent. So the ones I interact with, I believe, have souls. It's as far as I know.
This next question is from Kids Future. It says how does she tell the difference between fake military black op UFOs and ETs versus true ones?
Oh, good question. I actually don't really see UFOs much. I'm more of just the one-on-one with the alien beings. Um, I've maybe 3 or 4 times in my life seen lights in the sky. So I don't know if they belong to our military or if those are legit alien um, vessels. Although, like I said, when my sister, who sees the cloud ships, she feels called. First of all, she might just be doing dishes or something, and she just feels this need to just put everything down and go out and look at a particular spot in the sky. And then when she does, and she sees this cloud ship, she'll get such a feeling from it. Like you don't get a feeling like that just from looking at a cloud or from a jet, but she can sense their presence and their beingness and their love from and I've heard that from other people too, from seeing lights or ships in the sky. So I guess you could say it's in how they make you feel. Because when
This next question is from Mystic Tony. It says, did they give you tips on how to get into a mental state to be able to call them or astral project?
well, not really tips so much as just be in a relaxed state, stay as positive as you can, meditate, try to do the deep breathing and meditate. I've just kind of learned through trial and error. They'll approach me more easily if I'm in a positive state, if I'm relaxed, if I'm breathing, doing some deep breathing and clearing my mind, or if I call them mentally. So that's just the best way, is just to try to stay in a positive or visualize. They do communicate with telepathy, so you can use mental pictures if you don't feel comfortable calling them with words or whatever, you can like send a picture, mental picture, asking them to come, and then do some deep breathing and relax.
The next question is from Joy Oak4. Says, have they ever told you to worship God?
Not so much told me, but they, because I've asked them, do you believe in God? And to them, it's just, why wouldn't you? It's just like there's no argument. Of course there's a creator, and they don't argue about it, they don't disagree about it, they just, that's just, it just is, there is a God. And so they don't tell me what to do as far as you need to worship God, but they have definitely made it clear that they know there's a creator, and that yes, by praying, you definitely brighten and lighten your aura and your being. So to me, that's a good positive sign.
Now I'm stumped. I'm trying to find. Oh, okay. Here's another one from Mystic Tony. It says, have they told you about what's on the moon or Mars or about our solar system? That would be interesting.
Not really, no, because I've read a lot about that too, that there's, bases on the dark side of the moon and things like that. But they haven't really showed me. The few times they've showed me Earth, though, they take me, or like from a ship. It's like the ship is either on the moon or just above the moon, because I can see the Earth in the distance, but the moon is like right there. The curve of the moon is on the just under the window, and then beyond it is the Earth. But no, they haven't showed me, because I'd love to see what's really on Mars and things.
The next question is from ED. Do you have an idea what the triangle marks made up of dots that some people wake up with on their body mean?
With those on my ankle, on my arm, on my shoulder, um, and I'm not sure what they mean, but I know that they've done medical things to me. Not terrible, scary, or painful, but like they said, they are interested in my DNA. So it's some kind of, I think, a medical test or procedure or something they do. Or who knows, it could even just be that proof that it really happened, because you wake up from an experience like that and you think, whoa, that was a weird dream, and then you get a nosebleed, or you have this triangle shaped marking, and it makes you think, whoa, that was not just a dream, that was real. So maybe it's just that too, to confirm that it wasn't a dream, it really happened.
This next question is formulated a bit different, but I believe this person is from France. So bear with me on reading a message. But this from Fabrizi Grout, and says, spacecraft like glass bubble and translucent furniture. You know of this, and hooded beings.
Yes, like the one that looked like an aquarium was like a glass bubble. And also sometimes I still call them dreams. Sometimes I'll think it was a dream when I first wake up, and then when I think about it, I'll realize it was a um, encounter. But round glass elevators, like some hotels have elevators on the outside, and they're glass, so you can look out. I'll dream that I was in a round glass elevator with a bunch of odd-looking people, and then when I think about it, I think, oh, okay, that was a ship. That wasn't an elevator. So yes, I've definitely seen a lot of round glass ships.
Um, I guess I can ask you this question because this is the question that was asked by Mark Reeves, and this is why I'm trying to discern whether or not he's being silly or sarcastic, or if he's genuinely asking this question, because this could be pertaining to hybrids, but the way he's asking, I'm not sure. But I figure I'll ask you, and you answer this however you feel. Okay. Um, so Mark is saying, I'm expressing what I feel is current ongoing relationship. Are my new bosses possible aliens? Please go back to my last question. So I'll leave that to you, Donna.
Your new boss is possible. You know what? I do. I have come to believe over the years, just in the recent past, that there are incarnated aliens walking on the earth right now. For the longest time, I refused to believe that. And then I accepted that, okay, if they did incarnate, they had to keep their mouths shut. So they either were a human with their memory wiped or they came in as like a dog or a monkey or something. But now, because we're so close to this shift, where we're reaching the tipping point where we need to, either ascend or go back to the dark ages, I think more are coming in to help with this shift, and I do believe it's quite possible that there are aliens beings walking the earth that know they're alien beings and they know they're here for a mission, but they can't tell us yet. So I believe that's very possible.
There's the next question is again from this gentleman. I can't. It's MOSWTD. What is the connection with Nazis, Aryans, twins, and aliens? Um, we are more Aryan than any race, and they killed 95%. Don't know. I don't know what you can make of that, Donna.
No, during one of the last Q&As I did a couple of years ago, someone said, why are so many white people contactees, And it's like, that's a really good question. I know that there are Black people, and I know Native Americans definitely believe, that our ancestors came from the stars and they have contacts. So it's not just white people, but and I also believe that some of the Nazis were sneaked out after World War II and given safe havens and given laboratories to do scientific experiments or whatever. We're not necessarily taught the correct history, but from what I know, they weren't the best people. So I don't know that I'd want to interact with them.
Okay. The next question is from Mystic Tony. Have you met other humans on the ships? And how many types of ETs have you seen, and what do they look like?
Yes, other humans on the ships. I open my book with a scene that's like a classic scene that I recall from my youth, where I would come awake and I'd be on a ship and there would be, I don't know, probably 3 dozen people in this big round white room. And I didn't necessarily know any of them, but we'd all be in different stages of, like, I was usually in my pajamas because they usually take me from my sleep. There would be maybe like a lady in an evening gown and maybe a man in like Civil War dress and a man dressed like a farmer. And when I found out they don't experience time the same way we do, I wonder if when they pick us up from different time periods even and just throw us all in the same room together. Because according to the way people are dressed, I think that's possible. But we're all pretty traumatized at that point and don't really strike up a conversation or share names or phone numbers or anything. So I don't know if I saw that same person on the street the next day, if I'd even recognize them. And I've even wondered if they put us on a ship with next to our great great grandmother to see if we recognize each other, because they like to watch human interactions and human relationships. Um, but I'm sorry, I forgot the second half of the question.
It was, let me see, maybe I skipped it over. Have you met other humans on the ships? And how many types of ETs have you seen, and what do they look like?
Yeah, that the main one, crow, the grays, the ghostly looking one like a Tekana, the brown scurries that clean up around the ship. I've seen like an octopus or squid-like being that has multiple arms that works in like a control room scenario. And and there's one that calls herself Kaisos from the future. She always says, "I am Kaisos from the future." And she scurries around and she's kind of like a monkey or a raccoon. She's the only one I know of that has hair. Sorry. And um, there's like countless. I know that there's other beings on the ships, but I haven't personally interacted with them. So I think there's probably countless, just like there's, untold species of life on Earth between the oceans and the mountains and the jungles. There's probably that many more different species of beings in space, and they all work together on the ships, each one according to what they do best, what their body is suited for, what their mind is suited for. Like I said, they appreciate the individuals, so they use each individual's talents and abilities. And I don't see any type of like prejudice, even though Croat is like obviously a leader type. When he has the 3 grays with him, he doesn't like tell them what to do. He's not like a boss. I think they're all kind of equal and they all respect one another.
This question is also from Mystic Tony. It says, "Why do we forget our experience? I had an experience with ETs that are good, but I keep forgetting most of the experience." And Donna, if I could please ask you for a favor, I have to step off for a quick second, so I'll leave the camera on you, and so please keep going until I come back. It won't take long.
Sure. Why do we forget? That's a really, I have asked them many times, or while something is going on, I'll say, "Please let me remember this. Please let me remember this." And sometimes I'll even wake up and it'll be like 2 or 3 in the morning and I'll be, remember this. And then I'll wake up the next morning and I won't. And it's so frustrating. One thing that helps though is to keep a journal next to your bed with a pen or pencil. And then as soon as you wake up, start writing. And even if you can't remember exactly what happened, even if you just remember a color, or if there's a song stuck in your head, or just anything, just start writing. And once you start writing, more of the memories will usually start flooding back. And that's been the most helpful thing for me. But I feel like there's certain things that we're just not meant to remember. It's like I feel like I have another family in another world, and I visit them regularly. And as I'm being taken away and I'm waving and I'm sometimes crying, I'm so emotional because I don't want to leave them and go back to Earth. And their face, I'll be looking at them like, remember them, remember them. And then like a curtain will come over and their faces will be blurred. And I can't tell you what their faces look like. I have no idea, but I know it's my family in another world. And I think we're just not meant to remember certain things. But like the downloads, it's there, it's in our brains. We just can't access it right now. But maybe at some point, some future point, we will remember. Certainly after we die. I'm pretty sure that after we die, it'll all come flooding back. But it would be nice to remember it now while we're still alive on Earth. Are you there? Are you back yet?
Yep, I'm back. I'm sorry. I'm just looking over the next message, trying to see because it moves on me, so I don't want to miss it. This one is from Cashmore Turbo. Have you ever done a meditation shown in your mind when you are and have light ships come to you? If that makes sense. Sorry, I didn't read it quite right.
Yeah, pretty much it all happens in my mind, I think. I thought it all happened in my mind until I woke up with things like nosebleeds and bruises and marks. So then it's obviously they are taking my body too. But light ships, I don't, like I said, I don't see ships a whole lot like in the sky, but I have seen orbs in my bedroom. If you mean like that, like orbs, bright lights like that, small, like a tennis ball size, going through my room. Or, this is another form of being that I see. They're purple lights that hover in the corner in my bedroom. They're bright purple, and they spin and they shoot off like fireworks of purple that kind of come out and down like fireworks would. And that's another type of entity that I see.
So, Donna, what do you say if we take a couple more questions and then we'll call it a day? Hmm. Okay, let me see if I can look over to see to give someone a chance to ask that has not asked a question yet. Just bear with me for a second, please. Here's a good one. Why do they come just at night? I know I'm breaking my own rule. This person did not have those three dots, but it's I believe first time asking a question. It's Steve Darrow. Steve Darrow.
Them to come when we're asleep because our conscious mind is so full of chatter. We're thinking about 15 things at once and we're worried and what are we going to wear tomorrow and I can't forget to pay the bill. And, you know, the mind is so caught up with that kind of stuff that it's harder for them to get through to us. So when we go to sleep, that chatter is quieted down and our subconscious mind opens up when we dream. And that's when they can reach our subconscious mind much easier. But they do sometimes come in the daytime, like those who see cloud ships or see lights or ships in the daytime. And sometimes, for some reason, when I'm washing dishes, I'll be washing dishes and I will hear, I won't see, or, they won't be actually in my kitchen, but they will maybe give me messages or tell me things. Maybe because I'm not really thinking about anything else. I'm just standing there doing a monotonous task, and so they're able to reach and maybe tell me something. So they can come in the daytime, but it's just much easier for them to come when we're asleep.
Okay, and here's the last question, also by a person that did not have those little dots, but it's a question. I figure it's the last question of the day, so I'll let it go. Mikey Gematria. The question is, Donna Lynn, what is your blood type? I am O negative and I seem to be more intuitive than some people. I was just wondering if you were as well.
About O negative. I'm A positive, but my mom was O positive. But I have heard that about the O negatives, that could even be what they consider alien blood, or more, or they're more contactees are O negative, but I'm A positive. So
Okay. Donna, well, thank you very much. On my little split screen, you could do just a bit off, but that's okay. I think it's to your right. Yeah, there you go. It's all right. We're finishing
okay,
off anyway. It's no
I was
big deal.
leaning a
Yeah.
little.
But yeah, Donna, thank you again. I really appreciate you taking the time. And I know there's a lot of people, a lot of questions. I hope they're all genuine, sincere questions, especially with the subject that we're dealing with. But I don't know. You don't know. All we can do is just
Right,
put the information out, take it as is. So,
right.
again, thank you again. I don't know if you want to finish up with something, and then I'll sign off, and we should be good for today.
Okay, I didn't really have any, like, a wrap up thing to say, but just uh, be open to experiences, that there is a lot more to this world than what we might think there is, and just be open to synchronicity. If something, and your gut instinct, it's important to use discernment, your own. Don't necessarily do what someone else tells you or what you read, or go with your own gut instincts and your own discernment. Learn to trust your own self. And I don't know, they're always telling me that life is magical and life is like a game and it's meant to be enjoyed and it's meant to be fun. And humans have forgotten that. We made life more of a difficult, complicated thing. And like I said, they have a sense of humor, like sarcastic, witty kind of sense of humor, and they're always saying life is a game, lighten up, and lighten up, literally they want us to lighten up to raise our vibration, but try not to take everything quite so seriously, and try to find joy, and look for the magic in everyday life, because there is still magic there, and it's waiting for us to find it.
Great, great. Donna, thank you. Thank you again. And everyone watching, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to visit Donna's website. Actually, take that back. She has a author's page that has an email there available if you would like to reach out. And also her book is available with Ozark and I believe on Amazon as well, correct?
Yes, I think it is.
Okay, yeah. And so I included your author's page in the description of this video below if you are interested. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. Sorry. I thought you did. I'm not looking at the screen, so I just
Oh,
sounded like you were going to say something. Anyway, so please um, get the book. It's a great book, especially if you're really wanting to know what I believe. Would you say what an experiencer is going through with all the craziness that happens to him?
yes, that's what it is. It's a collection of the journals that I started keeping from the time I was a teenager. Like I said, I wrote it down just to get it out of my head so that I could have a normal life without thinking about these crazy things that were happening to me. And actually, it was, I went on a camping trip with my niece and her husband and her twin girls. And her girls were 3 years old. And her one girl, she had told me, had night terrors. My niece was asking me about it because she knew I had had them. And I heard we were in tents. So in the middle of the night through my tent, I heard this little 3 year old girl just screaming, inconsolable with a night terror. And that I've had them all my life, but I had never heard someone else have one. And it was just horrific. And I felt so bad for her parents. They couldn't calm her down. She was like in a trance. And that's when it occurred to me, I know that the visitation is followed in family groups. And I wouldn't doubt but that my mother or my grandmother's great grandmothers had been visited by these beings. And if any one of them would have kept a journal, it would have helped me so much to read. Oh, she went through this and she saw that. And so that's why I started keeping the journals too. And that's, well, no, I had kept them, but that's when I decided to pull them out and put them together and put them into a book form for this little girl when she got older, that she would know she's not alone, and that what I went through and how I handled it. And as I was putting them together, they came and told me, submit this to Dolores Cannon's publisher. And at the time, I didn't know who that was. So I looked that up, and it's Ozark Mountain Publishing. And I did. And that was the first and only place I submitted it to, and they published it. So um, it's kind of a guide, like this is what I went through and how I got from fear to love. It took me many, many, many years. So hopefully by reading it, other people that are going through it and that feel scared maybe can move through that a lot faster and accept that it's a relationship and it's loving and they're benevolent, you know, in a faster, easier method than I had to go.
Well, Donna, thank you for that. Um, you have a good night. Everyone else that has joined us today, thank you very much for your questions. I hope that helped you some. Please tune in again for another live show next Friday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm not quite sure who I'm going to have as a guest yet, but I'll always make an announcement, or we'll have um, the the stream that will be on that Friday already live and with the person's name and title on there already to give you an idea. So stay tuned. Definitely next Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time. Again, thank you all very much for your questions, and hope you could tune in next week, Friday. And look forward to another interview that I just recently did with Gardner Schulhauser, and that would probably be going live Wednesday, and it'll just be a webcast drop. So stay tuned. Check out Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. Have a good day, good night, and wherever you might be. Thank you again, and take care.